Well, today, Erin and I want to talk about romance and really how do we make this more of an everyday experience versus maybe reserving it for a holiday or for an anniversary. But first, before we get into it, don't forget to subscribe. We have weekly videos really to help you guys keep growing together as a couple. You know, thinking about romance, one of my very favorite stories, I don't know if it's one of my favorite because I look like an idiot, happened one time. You were at a store.
At a grocery store on Valentine's Day. I had just left Focus and was running by the grocery store to grab a few things, and I decided I wanted flowers.
I have to defend myself for a second. So what I had asked my wife is that I'm going to spend X dollars. Would you like it split between flowers and a gift card? Because you love gift cards. Or would you like it all in a gift card? And you went, oh, I love it all in this big gift card.
So there I am, grocery store, Valentine's Day, in line. I decide I wanted flowers too. So I picked some beautiful flowers out. I'm checking out at the checkout line, and in front of me I hear this voice, and he said, seriously, you're buying your own flowers on Valentine's Day? It was Jim Daly, our boss. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's okay. I'm buying the flowers. But then he proceeded to come back to Focus and give you the hardest time for about 3 years.
That's how he usually introduces me. Here's our marriage guy. His wife buys her own flowers, but don't worry. He's got
Valentine's Day.
Better information. Exactly. You know, when you think about flowers and you think about cards and candy and the typical kinds of stuff that we would do to try to be romantic, I think the problem with that mindset is that it becomes about the things. Like if we find the perfect date night spot, you know, the most romantic place, what happens is that what we've seen over time is that true romance is never about the thing, the flowers, the chocolate, the romantic getaway. Really, true romance is about being fascinated, being curious with each other.
So recently I was reading in one of my textbooks as I'm pursuing my doctorate, George Lowenstein, a professor of economics and psychology, describes curiosity as arising when attention becomes focused on a gap in one's knowledge. Isn't that interesting?
It is.
Such information gaps produce the feeling of deprivation labeled curiosity. The curious individual is motivated to obtain the missing information to reduce or eliminate the feeling of deprivation. And that's what curiosity is. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah. I love to watch her geek out on her research, her stats, her fun quotes that you find. You sent that to me out of nowhere.
I don't even know if you read it.
I read it 3 times because I love you so much.
Okay.
But
it's so interesting what it's actually saying. Yeah. Curiosity is something that's so helpful in marriage because so often we assume so much about each other. We've been married 33 years. We know it all. But we're always changing. So really continuing to really bridge the gap of deprivation of knowledge. Really, we need to remain curious about who is Greg today.
Yeah. Because the reality is about the only thing that we can promise you that's going to be true for every single marriage on this planet is that the two individuals are always changing. There's a way in which our brains were kind of wired to crave the familiar. There is something like, 33 years, I know Erin, I'm familiar. There's something just creates some peace there. But the reality is because we're always changing. Who Erin is today may be very different than who she is tomorrow. I mean, anything can happen that can create a need for us to stay current and to update that knowledge. And that's why we think one of the greatest things that you can do is to just have a mindset, not only of curiosity, but a commitment towards rediscovering each other. Just going, yeah, what's new about you now? I'll just assume that there's something, and I want to figure out what that new thing is.
And that's an accurate assumption because as we move from season to season, there's so much to rediscover. Because the alternative to curiosity is boredom. And boredom is man-made. Boredom is something that we employ when we assume that we know it all about our spouse. And we lose that sense of curiosity of who is my spouse today? What are their likes, their dislikes? What's exciting to them? What are they dreaming about? All of those things. Such an opportunity to be curious versus bored.
Yeah, because you could take two people and put them in the most romantic place on earth. And if they have no interest in each other, if they're not really fascinated by the other, curious, I mean, no sparks are going to be flying. Whereas you take two people who are so deeply fascinated and interested and curious to know who this person is, and you put them, a parking lot by a grocery store, on a cold, dreary night, I tell you, sparks will be flying. Because romance, true romance, are not those things. Those things can enhance that curiosity, but they're never going to create the romance that we long for, versus going, man, I want to stay curious and fascinated and interested in Erin. Because it's just over time within a marriage, it's easy to get bored, like you were talking about, because there's something comforting about just going, hey, I know everything.
Familiar.
Yeah. And our brains are really wired to think that way, to want the comfort of going, I know who Erin is, I know all these things, and that kind of settles us in, versus really saying, one lifetime isn't long enough to really get to know Erin, because she's always changing. That's always the thing that we can promise and guarantee you about marriage, is you're both constantly going to be changing. Week to week, Erin's coffee order changes. I'll try to surprise her with coffee, and she'll go, thank you, love your heart. Not really into this, whatever.
Yeah, anymore.
Mocha,
My pizza order.
Something. Yeah.
I developed gluten intolerance, so my whole pizza order changed.
I know. Because I recently discovered that pizza is gluten. So yeah, that was
You used to
very
say,
helpful.
I'll take her gluten on my side.
Put it on my side of the pizza.
Not possible, but things change.
Yeah.
And so it really is continuing to have the stance of curiosity. What is true about my spouse today? And really getting to know them, earning a PhD in who are they today.
Yeah, so how you become then curious is you have to make a decision, a choice. This will never happen on its own. Is that I'm going to make a concerted effort to rediscover who Erin is, really every day. And I have to have that mindset that I don't want us to drift. I don't want to lose sight of Erin. I don't want to wake up one day going, married to a stranger. We're nothing more than roommates. And so if I'm willing to go, I want to rediscover her, what that does is that forces me to then ask questions. And that's the key to truly rediscovering someone, is being willing to ask questions. I remember one time saying to you, okay, what would be maybe a few questions that I could ask you that would be meaningful? If I'm going to rediscover you and ask these questions, what would that be? Thinking that she would kind of go, that's a great question, and maybe come up with one.
No, I had 4 in
Like right off the
within
bat.
like 30 seconds. And you're like, wait, hold on. And I was like, do you want more?
Yeah.
I could give you 10. And we landed on 4 questions that we will ask each other regularly.
Yeah. So when I asked Erin that, she said, well, if you ask me, how am I feeling? So that's a big deal for you, is to have me explore kind of emotionally what's going on for you. So how are you feeling? Ask, how are things going between you and the kids, not from like a
strategic,
or a administration kind of way, but relationally, how are you and the kids doing? Friendships are very important to Erin, so she said, ask me about how things are going between me and my close friends, and then ask me what's one thing God's been teaching me as of late. And there, I had it, and as you can see, man, I've locked those things into my brain. And so when we're maybe laying in bed or at the dinner table, if we're going out for a date night, driving, sitting at a restaurant, those are the kinds of questions that I'll ask Erin, and it helps me to rediscover you.
And those questions have been great. And you've made it super easy for me. Really what Greg loves me to ask him is, what was the high of your day? What was the low of your day? And those are pretty simple. And then I'll throw in a couple extra bonus questions. What's one thing God has been teaching you lately? What's the greatest stressor at work right now? I don't ask him, how are things going with your girlfriends?
It's a good boundary. Well, because I think what the high and the low, how it's helpful for me is that it just gets me going.
It warms
And then
you to the
you have just a
experience.
great way of asking follow-up questions, and we go, all kinds of places that I wasn't even expecting. But there's something intimidating to think, oh, I got to answer these 4 questions. You love that.
I love
so
that.
Yeah, I'll ask away. But the high and the low, it's really made it a really easy thing for me to get into that sort of conversation.
Just being curious is so helpful in order to rediscover who my spouse is today.
Yeah, romance, never about the activities and the chocolate and all that
I
stuff.
like flowers and gift cards.
We're not saying don't do that, but if that's all you do, that's not going to create that daily romance that you're looking for. It's our willingness to be so curious and then to rediscover each other and then enhance that experience by going to a fun date night or bringing home a card with some chocolate in it, whatever. And you'll just trust us. Watch how that romance will continue daily to blossom in your marriage.
Talking about romance, another way to really pursue and rediscover each other is serving together. I know for you and I, Greg, teaching marriage events or sitting with a couple and counseling, we feel so connected and just rediscover who are we today by serving together.
Yeah, we've created something here focused on the family called Marriage 911. And what this is a program that trains mentor couples. So as a couple, we get trained to actually then help a couple who's really struggling in their marriage. We give you everything that you need. So you go through a whole training, you feel equipped, you've got the curriculum to actually walk this couple through. It's been so fun over the years to hear the stories from the couples going, man, we were so nervous and we weren't sure we could do this. But getting trained, using the material, it's just brought us so much closer together. And there's just something powerful. You're right about ministering together.
Totally.
So we'll put the link below to Marriage 911. Well, if you found this video helpful, go ahead and like it and comment. We've loved reading what you have to say about the videos. And don't forget to subscribe for weekly videos because we want to help your marriage thrive in Christ.